Welcome back to our BNI San Diego podcast. I'm really excited, if you can't already tell, because of my co-host, Alex Terranova of Alex Terranova Coaching. Alex, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Love being here. It's my
It's
favorite
al-
podcast.
it's always a pleasure. I love the fact that you're a very regular and one that is requested actually quite a bit. So thank you for
Thanks.
joining us today. I'm excited about today's topic because it is very BNI-esque. Tell
Hmm.
us about what's our topic for today.
Let's talk about the comeback.
The
So
BNI comeback.
the comeback, and I think when we think of comebacks, we often think of sports, right? A team is behind, they're losing, they change the momentum, they suddenly start playing differently, and then we have a new outcome, possibly, right? Unless the other team comes back.
Yeah.
And I think in BNI, I've actually been here. I've had it where I started really slow, and I wouldn't call that a comeback because I necessarily didn't create anything, but I had to kind of climb that mountain. And then I've seen it where times where someone shows up and it starts really well, and then something happens and it falls off. And what do they choose to do when it falls off? Do they leave BNI? Do they change themselves or their systems? But what does that comeback look like? And I was actually with a client of mine who's also in BNI who is going through the most epic comeback right now. And when you were talking to me about what do we want to talk about, I was like, I got to tell you about this guy because I think he's inspiring me, but I think he's can be an inspiration to a lot of people.
Love it. So it's that, as you were talking about the comeback, like in my head, I was actually thinking about what a lot of people had to do 4 years ago when the pandemic hit. Just had this conversation with someone where companies and people needed to reinvent themselves,
Yeah.
literally, and not necessarily their product or service, but how they worked with their product or service, how they worked with new clients, and that's a different form of comeback, but it's that reinventing, and it's amazing how much energy, as you said, with this person, how much energy can come out of it, and boy, oh boy, once you get that ball rolling, momentum just takes over.
Well, and we never know, you used COVID as an example. My When COVID happened, I felt like it was like almost not in the health, let's take the health aspect off the
Yeah.
board, but from the impact of what it did to businesses in my field, I felt like it was rocket fuel. People were
Mm.
really scared, they didn't know what to do. So I got to really be a beacon for a lot of people of, hey, let's transform, let's evolve, let's grow. Like that's what I'm all about.
Yeah.
COVID for my business was actually really great. Um, for other people, obviously, it's the opposite, right? If you have a brick and mortar, it was terrible, right? You had to get really creative on how to stay
Well,
alive.
and
Um,
remember, I mean, I don't know about in where you live, but I remember 6 months out, like,
yeah,
July, August, September of that, or when, people driving down the streets were Restaurant Row, and
yeah,
all of a
empty.
sudden the restaurants were now outside,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right? I mean, that's
yeah,
that's
the
what we're talking.
creative.
It's literally like those individuals that were forced to reinvent themselves.
And COVID, I think, is an example of a major thing happening. But I think the things that happen are happening all the time,
All the time.
right? I was just teaching a group of people today about how many legs on your stool do you have? And they were like, "What do you mean?" I was like, let's say social media, your Facebook is your main avenue of business, and well, what happens if your Facebook gets hacked?
Mm.
That leg of your stool got kicked out, and then your stool is going to fall over, right? But even if Facebook was your one leg of your stool, it's a wobbly stool. So then you're like, okay, I have Facebook. I go to BNI. Now I got to say BNI is another leg of my stool, right? I hire a marketer, email marketer. Now I got another leg of my stool, right? The more legs of your stool you have, the more
Stronger
comfortable
the
you're
table.
going to
Yeah.
sit and stronger and more stable. But life inherently is always kicking out legs of our stool. And it could be right through you're going through a divorce and you're so stressed out, and now that's weighing on your business, right? Or you're having, I know somebody right now who's really struggling with their teenage son, and that is taking so much of their energy that's pulling them away from their business.
Mm.
COVID is a thing. The person I'll share with you today, they had a family incident that created a lot of distraction in their life and changed the perception that everyone in BNI had of them.
Ooh.
And then they had to make a choice what they were going to do if they were going to climb out of that hole, right? But life is always kicking out legs of our stool. Life is always throwing challenges at us. And some of those challenges don't force us into a comeback.
Yeah.
But some of them really do.
And that also we just did an education series. I think it was in June, and it's a play on words. And the topic was shifts happen, right? There are times where, and it's exactly what you're talking about. There are going to be things that are going to happen in business and in life that are going to knock out a leg. And what are you going to do with that? Are you going to be the one that falls on the floor and just stays there? Or are you going to be the one that now, reshifts how you're balancing yourself and putting more weight on the other legs until you reinvent that new leg to put it in place, whatever that new leg's going to be?
Yeah. Yeah. I think of it as, I think of our lives as a ship on an open sea, and there are storms all around us. Yeah. There's sunny days with no storms. Those come too, but there are storms in all directions all around us. And a leader chooses the storm they want to sail right into because they're like, that's the direction. What's on the other side of that storm is what I want. Whereas let's say a non-leader, a passive person, a victim, someone who's always impacted by their circumstances is trying to navigate all around to get away from the storms, which is impossible. You're going to navigate away from one right into another one. And then all of a sudden you're going to find that you're not actually even headed in the direction you want to be going. So you're in storms that actually don't even align with what you're committed to or what your goals are, versus going into the storms that are fully aligned with what you're committed to and what your goals are.
Well, in one of our past podcasts that you and I did, you shared on the buffalo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly what you're talking about. The buffalo head into the storm.
Yeah. And that's a different reason, right? They do it for like, it gets it over with quick. They go right in. It's not as intense. It's like diving into the wave. They're not necessarily headed anywhere, just to safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about this story because it's really good. He said I actually could say his name. His name is Jay. He's a personal trainer. He's a great personal trainer. And that I met him. I actually just was introduced to him. He started doing work with me as a client. He joined BNI for his personal training business. And early on in his personal training, not in his personal training business, early on in his BNI experience, it started off really positive. He was like, I love this. He knew he wanted to be in. The group loved him. He was in, right? And in the first like month or two, I don't remember, but his grandmother got really sick and she ended up passing away, which is obviously terrible, right? Like,
yeah.
that's what grandmas do, but it's also devastating and terrible. And Jay had to go support his family, which wasn't local. So he went and he had to leave San Diego. He went to support his family. And so he was gone for a few weeks. It might've been a month. I don't remember, but right. He was still in that early period of his membership, and
building visibility and credibility. Yeah.
Yeah. And even though people liked him and he was a nice guy, he was still early. And a couple weeks in, 3-4 weeks into this experience, people start coming to me and they're like, hey, what's up with this guy? He's not here. Can we trust him? It's all the trust and reliability stuff. And look, honestly, at that point, I didn't know him that well. He had started working with me in a coaching program I was leading. He seemed like a great guy, like really liked him, but I didn't know him. He wasn't like my best friend or a family member or anything. And I would hear what they were saying. And I was like, look, I can't take responsibility for this guy, right? I don't, and then I'd go back to him, and either in just our connection or in our coaching, I would reflect back to him what he's creating. Right. And he was at the time, he was very but these are my circumstances. Right. And totally true. And at the time we talked a lot about, so this thing happened. Your grandmother, your family, you had to go. And now you get to decide, who do you want to be about it? Mm-hmm. And I remember him saying to me, I want to be in this chapter, and I want to change their attitudes and their minds. So a lot of the work we did in our coaching together was, what are the attributes of the man he needs to become to change that? And it wasn't about, going to every person and changing their mind, right? It was about who do I need to become? And then they have to do the other people have to do the other work because we can't change their minds. That's up to them.
That's a true statement right there.
Yeah. And Jay took this on like really passionately and really committed. He wanted people to know who he really was, you know? And so now I don't know, he's probably been in the chapter. It's not even a year, but we're on the back end of
Yeah.
the 12 holes, right? Um, and he in this past month, he had his largest business revenue month that he's ever had. And in the same month, he told me 2 times, I just beat my record. And then like a week later, I just beat my record. A handful of that business is coming from BNI,
Ooh.
a big chunk of it. And he has a handful of people that are in the chapter that are like, hey, I want to get in. I want to work out with you. People are working out with him and seeing how great he is as a trainer.
Yeah.
He's really an extraordinary trainer and he's just a great guy and he really works with people at all levels. So no matter who they are, they're finding a sweet spot in their fitness and their health with him. And I would say this is kind of a funny thing to say, and it's not the truth, right? It's just like right now he feels like the most popular guy in the chapter.
Yeah.
Everybody's like wants to be a part of him. Everybody's saying his name. Everybody's celebrating him. And I saw him yesterday, and I knew we were going to do this podcast, and I asked him permission if I could say his name. And I said, "Man, you've really like done an incredible like I'm so proud of you. You have changed the hearts and minds of I can't say everyone. I don't know every single person, but the collective, right? You've changed the hearts and minds of that group where you're a powerful and impactful member that people know, like, and trust."
Mm. Wow. And coming from a period of time where it was questionable for a bit.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
and I think that's the really powerful thing that if to me, if one of the things that people get out of this conversation is don't give up. Don't stop when things are spiraling out of control. So years ago I used to race cars. And one of the things that we were taught that when I started taking when I did my Bon Bondurant school of racing, one of the things that they taught was when the car is spinning out of control, where your eyes go, there you go. And literally the first 5 or 6 times I hit the wall of tires. And it was like the first time I actually was able to get in control of my eyes. And boom, what he said was right. Where my eyes went, I went. And then after that, it was just time after time after time. But you've got to get to that point
Yeah.
where you make that decision on where am I going to go? Like you said with him.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know that about race when a car is spinning, that's really what your focus is
Yeah,
on.
where you focus is
Um,
where you're going to go.
and I mean, it's true. I think that's true for all of life, right? And we can't control what we can't control. So he can't control what everyone thinks about him.
Yeah,
And that was where the gold was he didn't, most people get caught up in why doesn't everyone like me? But this thing happened to me. And right, they get caught up in the circumstances or the like victiminess of it.
yeah,
And the people don't love the idea of being a victim. So
yeah,
we'll like we won't even own that we're being a victim. We're like, but this thing happened to me.
yeah,
Well, that kind of makes you a victim, right? Like, and if we can actually own that, wait, I am being a little victimy. Even like if I'm saying to you, hey, I'm late to meet you for lunch because of traffic. I'm a victim of traffic, right? If
mm,
we realize that it's not this harsh word, it's just a reflection of how we're behaving.
of the circumstance. Yeah,
Yeah, when something takes control over us or we give up control to something else, we are a victim of that thing. Again, not good or bad, just that's just the like consequence
yeah,
of that relationship that we're in. But if we say, he's like, okay, so this happened and this happened and this happened, and then these people formed an opinion and that's what happened. Now I get to decide.
mm,
Who do I want to be? And now how do I do the work to become that person? And then we get to see what happens, right? Because we don't get to control the group or
yeah.
whatnot. And I think this is applicable to every BNI member. If you're not feeling great about how it's going in your chapter, if you don't have the relationships you want in your chapter, it's also applicable outside of BNI. If you don't have the relationships you want, if you don't have the business you want, okay, so those things have happened, whatever's happening. Now, who do you want to be? And I like to think where your eyes, so that thing that you said, where your eyes go, it's like, what's the target that you're aiming at? Who do you want to become? What are the attributes of that? What are the metrics? Maybe their goals. Um, and now what actions would I have to put in place to get me to that? So, for Jay, it was, I got to be on time to every meeting. I can't miss another meeting. And if I miss, I got to have a sub. Like I got to have a clear sub there.
Yeah.
I got to be doing one-to-ones so people can start really connecting with me. We did work around his leadership. Like, how did he present when he stood up to talk to the group? Something I love that he does now. A lot of people stand up in their spot.
He comes to the center.
He stands up and walks all the way
Yeah.
to the center every single time.
Yeah.
Everyone else doesn't do that,
Yeah.
but he does it every single time. Even some of, like, we looked at like some of the way he speaks, like his language. What words was he using that if he tweaked a little would have him sound more professional, more trustworthy, more reliable. And these are like little things. I remember him and I talked about when people stand up and they're like, "Hey guys," well, there's a room full of people that are not guys.
Yeah.
And most people
Little
don't
things
notice
like
that, but it's actually not professional.
Yeah.
It's lazy speech. Right? Hi everyone, whatever you want to say. And we as people do that all the time.
All the time.
We say things, or when we're in your commercial at BNI, if everyone stands up and says good morning,
Yeah.
Why? It's not that it's bad, right? But it's kind of silly to have 30 people all stand up and say good morning.
They're filler words.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I acknowledge Jay for this all the time, I think he's a master of it, is he is a master of taking feedback. He takes feedback and he incorporates it so fast. So many of us, I know I'm a person that does this, but someone gives me feedback and my default is like, I want to push it away.
Yeah.
I have to really like open myself up and Jay hears feedback and he takes it. And the next thing you'll see him do, he's like incorporating it. And I don't know how you train that except for practicing it, but people will give you feedback if you ask for it too. If you're in a chapter and you're struggling, you go to your president. You and I do this, right? I'll come to you and I'm like, "Hey man, I'm struggling with this thing," and you give me feedback, or you give me ideas. People want to do that. People love to do that.
And I think from this conversation, it's helping me understand that we've got to get comfortable with ourselves. When we become comfortable with ourselves, feedback for us is like the breakfast of champions. It's how we get better. I can only get better when I get feedback.
Yeah.
If I don't, I could be flailing. I could be losing it. And if I don't get feedback, I'm going to continue to fail.
Yeah.
And the receiving it. I love the word, one of our core values is accountability, which is a wonderful word. I prefer the word ownership. When I take ownership, when, like you said with Jay, it's like, okay, this is where you are. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to, what are you going to, this is you. Okay. Today, this is where I am. What am I going to do to get over there?
Yeah.
I love this conversation because so many, again, going back to the shifts happen and the kicking out of the legs on the table, it's always going to happen. Every life, we realize, we talk about in BNI that every 6 to 9 months, life happens. People go through different things. And it's inevitable that a leg is going to be kicked out. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to go, huddle in the corner and suck your thumb and poor me? Or are you going to go, no, I don't have time to do that, like Jay did.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I can't wait to see Jay now and just I mean, this whole conversation stems from a live, true story of
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah, and it's all really, a lot of ways it's kind of lucky or fortunate. As he met me, I brought him in, I liked him, he liked me. I'd been in BNI before. So even though I was actually pretty new to the chapter, we both this was a new, I'd been in many BNI chapters, but this was a new chapter for me. And so I had had some experience on what this looks like, right? And but what I've gotten from him is like how inspiring it is, right? I supported him. I didn't do anything, right? He had to do
Yeah.
everything. All I gave him was reflections and feedback and coaching. And then he took all that and implemented it in his own unique way.
Mm.
And it's a beautiful reminder that that's available for all of us. I actually just wrote this down, and I'm gonna give anyone that's listening to this a sneak peek. But that something that I just thought of to bring to my chapter that I want to offer them is we should create like a BNI feedback forum, which I just made up, which is like, hey, maybe once in a while, all of our members get together and all we do is give each other feedback. It's not a regular BNI meeting. It's a special, but we give
Yeah.
each other feedback that's meant to be, and somebody can moderate it so it doesn't go off the
Yeah. I
rails.
mean, everything is in how you, I mean, you want feedback. What's the saying? Everything's in the presentation.
Yeah.
And I, I love this idea because it's how we get better. And it's funny. I had a conversation, and I apologize for cutting in on this, but it's applicable. I had a conversation with someone several years ago, that was on my team, and we were talking about the element of loving on our chapters, loving on our people. And this particular person with who I adore still to this day, great person, came back to me, and they said, "Hey, Ed, life is not always rainbows and unicorns. We can't. It's not, loving someone. You just, whatever." And I left and I thought about it a little bit, and I realized that it when you truly care and when you truly love someone, you don't want them to stay where they're at. You're not coddling them.
Yeah.
You push them and you help them grow. When you truly care about people, you don't, it's, yeah, you want, okay, in the moment, you're going to give a hug, you're going to, hey, this is going to be okay. And then the following day, it's like, okay, what are we going to do about it?
Hmm. Yeah. And it's hard, but it's also hard. It's hard to watch somebody that you care about struggle.
Mhm.
And it's also hard to tell them the truth. So we get to pick which hard we want to deal with. And the way we tell someone the truth, I think, this is another just the general ideas, is it's not the truth, it's our truth.
Ooh.
Right. So, hey, Ed, you can give me feedback. Hey, Alex, I don't think you should wear black shirts. It's not helping you, whatever. Right. And you can do it. You could say that in five different ways. Some of them could be really mean, and some of them could be really kind of just flat or gentle or
Yeah.
kind. And ultimately, you could tell me, hey, this is why, this is the impact that I think it's having. And then I get to take your truth and see if it is it true for me.
Mm.
We have this we still live in a world where truth is like this murky thing right now in our world. And I think the thing that we get to come back to is, hey, everyone's experience is their truth, but it doesn't make it a collective truth. And it's fine because we'll never know what a collective truth is because we're all having our own experience.
Yeah.
But can we take other people's truths and decide if they apply to us? And then we
Mm.
take them or leave them. And sometimes we go, you know what? I don't want to wear a red BNI shirt. That doesn't work for me. And sometimes we go, you know what? You're right. When I wear black shirts, people think I'm mean, right? So I'm going to stop wearing black shirts, right? Whatever. And then we learned something new because we were open to someone else's perspective or truth.
One of the thing that I'm thinking about right now, and in our conversation, I keep coming back to the comeback happens when someone steps into our lives and reflects, as you said, I love that word that you used, reflects back to us what is seen. And then we're able to take that reflection and go, oh my gosh, is that the way that I want to be portrayed? Is that the way that I want to be seen? So the one of the important elements of this is having people in our lives that are willing to reflect back to us.
Yeah.
The whether it's a mentor that you've got, or a business coach, or a really good friend who's just willing to say, you know what, this is where you are. I'm here to help, but what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we got to be open, and we have to be open to that,
Yeah.
right? We have to be open to, because we've all been there where we weren't open to feedback,
Oh my
and
gosh.
then
Yeah.
it's just not helpful, right? And sometimes we really have to get clear on what we need when we need it. If when that was all going on with Jay, if I had come to him and said, "Hey, this is what's going on in the chapter, you haven't been here," and he had been in a dark or emotional place around what was going on, he could have easily said, "Doesn't matter to me right now.
Yeah. I'm done.
I don't, yeah." And it's not that I need to be out of that group, but I'm dealing with some hard family things. He could have said
Yeah.
that. Um, and I think that we have to honor that, right? We have to honor where people are emotionally in their lives and whatnot. And if we don't ask them, we don't know.
Mm.
Um, it's me and my wife get into this all the time. She'll share something with me, and the place that I can always get better is to just say to her, "Hey, who do you want me to be for you in this conversation?"
Oh,
Because she'll say something and she's having a hard time, and all she wants me to do is listen and empathize. I start giving her advice and solutions and ideas, and now she's upset at whatever she was upset about, and now she's also upset at me. But if I just say, "Hey, who do you want me to be?" she can say, "Oh, I want you to give me an idea. I want you to be empathetic. I want you to listen to me. I want you just to be silent. Whatever, right?" And then from there, um, we get to be a partner. We get to be like partners in that.
I just wrote down that phrase because I know that with my own wife and kids and whatnot, that's a that's a powerful phrase. Who do you need me to be? Who do you want me to be in the moment?
Yeah, for you in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might have to, depending on the person you're talking to, my wife understands that language. You might have to change the language a little bit, because some people be like, "What do you mean?" Right. But and sometimes I'll say things like, "Well, do you want me to be a friend? Do you want me to be just like a supportive friend?" Right. Because sometimes we really need someone to just be like, "Oh, it's okay. Like, I believe in you." Right. Like the cheerleader.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need someone to kind of go, "Stop complaining. You sound like a baby," you know? But we're all different, and depending on the circumstances,
Yeah.
we might need something different, right? The same person. I love being around people that reflect back to me and give me ideas. And sometimes when I'm in my stuff, I'm like a wall of
Oh,
barricade, and I can't, you're wasting your
can't
breath,
see
and
it.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to get mad at you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. When you're in a spin, everything's blurry.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
So, okay, so we're coming to a close here, and we could go on this for another hour. I mean, it's just like what an incredible topic. And Jay, I am looking forward to seeing you and giving you a hug, because it's awesome, that idea of a comeback, and you've done it in a way that you're killing it. So I'm excited to get to see you. So kudos out to Jay. So Alex, as we walk away, that Columbo moment where you turn back around, and if you're going to leave us with a tidbit, something that we want our audience, the professionals, the business owners out there, to remember, whether about this conversation, what's a key element do we want to leave them with?
Well, there's two I'm like grappling within two. One is about feedback. One is, if you want to know how you're doing, go ask somebody who you respect. Don't go ask somebody who doesn't like you. Don't go ask somebody who's a jerk. Go ask someone who you respect for some constructive feedback, and give them some guidelines like, "Hey, can I have some constructive feedback on my speaking, or the way I show up, or the way I dress, or the way I present myself, or the way my business offerings are?" Give them some bumpers so they're not just too wild. The other thing is that we all have an opportunity for a comeback, that we all will find ourselves in a down at some point, that nobody is just winning. Whether you're a professional athlete or a great team or a business person or a parent,
Mhm.
you're not winning every day infinitely. you win and then you lose and you lose and you lose and you lose and then you win and you win, then you lose, right? And so when we're losing, there's always an opportunity to adjust, get feedback, and decide who we want to start showing up as in the future.
And I love that word opportunity that you use, because it really is. It's the opportunity to show up differently today.
Yeah.
Alex, it's always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to having you back again. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your observations in your own chapter, and how we can highlight just an incredible guy like Jay. That's awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Jay, thanks for letting us use you as an example.
Yes, a real life example. I love that. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for our BNI San Diego podcast. We'll be back next week with another wonderful guest host, guest speaker. Thank you for joining us, and hope you have a great day.
This episode of the BNI San Diego podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.